Mr. Brown, the state may call its first witness.
State's first witness is Blake Jack.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Okay. Would you make your way over there and be seated, please?
Good?
Yep.
All right.
State may proceed when it's ready.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Jack, could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Blake Jack. Mollie was my brother's girlfriend. She lived with us on the summer that she went missing and was killed.
Hang on just a second. Don't get ahead of me.
Yep.
That's all right. Mr. Jack, currently where do you live?
622 West Des Moines Street in Brooklyn. Same address as then.
All right, we're going to...
Let me just stop you for a minute.
Sure.
Mr. Jack, at this point in time, we're having some difficulty with the microphones. We're trying to resolve the problem, but in the meantime, I'd ask you to speak up and project so
Okay.
the jurors can hear you.
Yep,
please.
absolutely.
Judge, can we resolve that before he testifies? We need to get this done. I mean, we've got jurors that are sitting in the back of the courtroom. I think they'll have trouble hearing.
I think under the circumstances, why don't we do this? Let's take a 10-minute recess, see if we can get this matter resolved, and we'll be back. Two things I want to indicate before we take our recess, though, and that is, want to remind you of your admonition. Please abide by that. And then I would ask that your seat you're currently in is going to be your assigned seat throughout the trial. That will help us keep track, both of you, and most importantly, your notebooks. So again, you can leave your notebooks, or do leave your notebooks where they are during this and all breaks. But if you could get back to the seat you're currently in, that would also be helpful. Thank you. Did you make a seating chart? Because you'll need to know that, won't you, for when you collect the record. After a short recess, we're in the presence of the jury. Mr. Bahena is present along with the attorneys of record. We'll resume momentarily with our first witness, but before we do so, I understand we have a housekeeping matter to take up regarding exhibits. Mr. Brown?
We do, Judge. By agreement for today, the state would offer States Exhibit 1 through 10 inclusive on our list. We would also offer Exhibits 22 and 23 and Exhibits 39 through 42 inclusive as well. I believe there's a stipulation. I talked to Mr. Freeze prior to starting this morning, and we would offer those exhibits at this time.
Mr. Freeze, is that agreed to?
It is, Your Honor.
All right, with that then, the following state's exhibits are admitted into evidence. State's Exhibits 1 through 10, 22 and 23, 39, 40, 41, and 42. Is that correct, Mr. Brown?
38 is also included in that as well. If I misspoke earlier, 38 would be included.
And 38. With that then, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Jack, sorry about the slight delay there. I just simply want to remind you you're still under oath.
Yep.
Mr. Brown, you may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Jack, we're going to start over again, okay?
Okay.
All right. Just please state your name for the record.
Blake Jack.
And where do you live?
622 West Des Moines Street in
Okay.
Brooklyn.
How long have you lived at 622 West Des Moines Street in Brooklyn?
3.5 years.
Okay. Do you live there currently with anyone else?
Yep, my wife.
Okay. What's your wife's first name?
Allie.
All right. How long have you been married?
Since 2019 of August.
All right. I probably wasn't going to ask your anniversary date. That's okay.
Yeah.
But do you also have children?
Yes, we do.
All right. And how many kids do you guys have?
We've got one son, Brayson, and we have another one on the way.
All right. Back in July of 2018, were you also residing at 622 West Des Moines in Brooklyn?
Yes.
And who was living with you at that point in time?
Well, at that time was my fiance, but still Allie, my brother Dalton, and his girlfriend Mollie.
Okay. And let's take a look at some exhibits here. I'm going to put Exhibit 4 on the screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. On the left side of this Exhibit 4, which has been admitted into evidence, it says 622 West Des Moines Street. Do you see that?
Yep.
Is that where you reside?
Yes.
All right. And is this generally, what town are we here? Is on the map?
Brooklyn.
All right. Okay. Mr. Jack, where is it that you are employed?
I'm self-employed. I own my own construction company.
Okay, how long have you had that construction company?
Going on 3 years. I was kind of half and half when I first got started, still working for another construction company and kind of part-time for myself as well, just trying to get going. So, but I've been full-time employed for myself for about 2 years now.
Okay, and do you have other employees?
Yes.
Okay, how many?
Right now we have 6 full-time employees.
Okay, so you stay pretty busy
Oh yeah.
with that business. What kind of construction is it?
New construction primarily. We do some remodels, but we try to build houses is primarily what we try to do.
Like somebody's home, residential properties?
Yep. Residential's all we get into. We don't dive into commercial or industrial.
Okay. Do you have siblings?
I do. 2 brothers, Dalton and Randy.
Okay. And is Dalton older or younger?
Dalton's younger. He's 3 years younger than me.
And how about Randy?
Randy's 3 years younger than him, so 6 years younger than me.
So you're the oldest
I'm
of
the oldest.
of the
Yep.
boys?
Yep.
Prior to her death, Mr. Jack, did you know Mollie Tibbetts?
Yeah, I knew her from just being my brother's girlfriend, and she'd come to family events, and got to know her a little bit more whenever she started living with us part-time when Dalton moved in with me and my wife. So, yeah.
Okay. How long had Dalton lived with you and Allie prior to July of 2018? Do you remember?
Well, we bought the house in October, and he moved in pretty much as soon as we bought the house. We did some small remodel projects before he moved in, but shortly after we moved in, he moved in with us as well.
You moved in October of 2017?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
All right. And did you get to know Mollie over that time period while she and Dalton dated?
Yeah, I mean, that was probably when she lived with us, that was the busiest time of year for me, so I wasn't at home all the time. But they would eat dinner with us occasionally. Their room was upstairs and our room was downstairs, so we kind of kept to our separate areas. They were constantly in their room and stuff. So, but we ate dinner together, got to know her pretty well, got to know her family a little bit and stuff. I knew her brothers from sports, and I coached them and stuff. So,
okay. So where were you employed in the summer of 2018?
I was self-employed at that time. I was working on a basement finish job. We were finishing out a basement over a new house over in Newton at that time.
So did you own your own construction business
Yes.
back in 2018?
Yep, I did.
All right. And the week of July 16th, which would include July 18th, where were you physically located?
I would go to the job site in Newton, and my wife, who worked for a seed corn company, was staying up in Ames as a field inspector at a hotel there with the rest of her colleagues, and so I would go up there and stay with her those couple of days during that week.
Okay. We'll talk to you a little bit more in detail about what you were doing that week, but as of July of 2018, did you know any person named Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
Had you ever met anyone that you recall that had that name?
No.
To your knowledge, Mr. Jack, had Dalton Jack or Mollie Tibbetts ever mentioned the name Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
Okay, let's talk more specifically about the week of July 18th, okay?
Yep.
All right. So I know you've told us you were working, but I want to direct your attention back to that week. When was it that you left town to go to Newton to work on this construction job that you've already described?
I was working there every day. We were probably midway through the process of that remodel, or that finish in that basement. So I was going there every day for work, even weeks before that and weeks after that.
Okay, so were you traveling to Newton and then coming home in the evening, or did you stay over that week?
That week I stayed those 2 days with my wife in Ames. But primarily I was coming home in the weeks prior. I mean, if I had a softball game, I'd come back home for softball, which was Mondays and Fridays. But that week I was staying with my wife in Ames.
Okay. So on what was the plan with regard to your house and who was going to be there while you were gone?
Well, the plan was for Mollie to watch the dogs. I didn't know until Monday night that Dalton wasn't going to be, he was traveling to Dubuque, which for him to be on the road was pretty common at that time. So all I asked Mollie to do was just let the dogs in and out. They were if we put them in the basement, they could stay down there. You know, they had food and water and stuff like that available to them, so it wasn't like, we had to be there all the time. So just let them out a couple times a day, and that would be enough.
Okay, so what was the practice with the dogs? When there was nobody home, where would you put them?
We'd put them in the basement, and the reason we did that is we have an old 4-square farmhouse, and the basement's, just a regular 4-square farmhouse basement, concrete floor, but it's not finished, and then all the utilities and stuff are down there. Toby, our younger dog, had epilepsy, and so if he would have a seizure episode when we were not around, he would, soil himself, and we didn't want that up above in the living space. So to prevent any of that big messes to clean up, we'd put them in the basement. Obviously they had their food and their beds and stuff down there, but that way if we had to clean something up, it wasn't up in our living space. So,
okay. All right. So what was the plan that week then with regard to you and Dalton and Mollie? What were the arrangements that were made?
Well, there wasn't any drawn out really arrangements. This is just that I asked Mollie to let the dogs out while I was gone, and just told her I was staying with Allie and Ames. That was really the only, there wasn't a formal arrangement by any means, but that was just kind of what we decided upon just because I was going to be gone. And with Dalton being out of town, had no problem. She had some stuff there anyways, so it wasn't a big inconvenience for her to come let them out.
Okay. So when was the last time that you saw Mollie Tibbetts alive?
Monday. I don't remember the day, whatever that Monday was before she went missing.
Okay, so that would have been July 16th, if Wednesday, July 18th was when she went missing. Is that right?
16th, yep.
So how was it that you got to Newton?
I drove there.
Okay, and Allie go with you, or did she drive separately?
No, she was already up in Ames, so she was been up there for work for probably a couple weeks already at that point.
All right. And whenever you left, was Mollie at 622 West Des Moines Street?
Whenever I left in the morning, no, she wasn't there the day that I left. I was home by myself, and Dalton wasn't there either.
Okay. And where else would Mollie stay if she wasn't at 622 West Des Moines?
Well, her mom's house was just, across town from us, so she would stay at her mom's.
Okay. And what's her mom's name?
Laura Tibbetts.
Laura Calderwood.
Or Calderwood.
Yep, it's okay. When was it that you learned Dalton was going to be working out of town that week?
Tuesday night, because I had originally not even asked Mollie to watch the dogs until I found out that Dalton was going to be out of town. I just assumed Dalton would take care of it because, he lived there. Whenever I found out from Mollie, whenever I asked her to let the dogs out, that Dalton wasn't going to be there, then I just decided to let her take care of them for us.
And that arrangement was okay with you?
Yeah.
All right. Did you have any communication at all, Mr. Jack, on Monday or Tuesday with Mollie Tibbetts that you have not already described to us?
No.
Did you have any communication with your little brother, Dalton Jack, on Monday or Tuesday that you haven't already told us about?
No.
By the way, when did he tell you that he was going to be working in Dubuque?
It had to have been Monday, or it had to have been Tuesday, because that was the day I can't remember exactly. It had probably been Tuesday, because that was the day I was going to go up to see Allie, to be sure. I wanted to be sure the dogs were going to be taken care of.
And was it your understanding that Dalton then was going to be out of town for the remainder of the week?
Right, he said he was going to be out of town for, it might have been a couple weeks, so.
Okay. So I want to now direct your attention to Thursday, July 19th of 2018. Did you receive any contact from Dalton Jack?
He called me right as I was wrapping up with work for the day and just asked me to, when I got home, to check on Mollie and to see what was going on. Said he hadn't heard from her and that she called in sick for work. Or that she hadn't called in sick, but that she hadn't been at work, and that work called him to see where she was at.
All right. So do you remember when you got that phone call from Dalton Jack?
Yeah, I was on the job site at noon. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon. So that's about the time we always wrap up every day.
And was that the first that you had heard that Mollie Tibbetts may be missing?
Yes, yeah.
And that was from Dalton?
From Dalton, yep.
At the time, what were your plans on that Thursday at 4:30? Were you going to come home that evening? What were your plans?
I had to go help Allie with her car because she forgot her car keys. But my plan was still to come home afterwards, yes.
So after receiving this communication from Dalton Jack that Mollie had not been heard from, did you get any other phone call from him between helping Allie get her phone keys and driving home to Brooklyn?
No.
Any text messages or phone calls, anything like that? I'm not suggesting there are, but any communications you can remember?
Not that I can remember.
Did you have any other communication with anybody else in Brooklyn concerning Mollie's whereabouts that you can recall?
Not that I can remember.
In any of your communication with Dalton at 4:30, did he ask you to check to see if you could reach Mollie?
No, I don't think he asked me, but I did try calling her just to double check. But
So did you have her phone number and her
Yeah.
contact information?
Yep.
And what was the result of your attempt to contact Mollie Tibbetts after talking to Dalton at 4:30?
no answer. So
And how was it? You just called her number?
yeah, I called her cell phone.
Did you have her cell number in your phone?
Yeah, I had her contact. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so after receiving this communication from Dalton Jack, what did you and Allie then do?
So I got home, and as I'm pulling into town, two of her friends were driving around and kind of half flagged me down and just asked me if I'd seen her, and I said I hadn't seen her, but I'm going to the house right now to check on her. Just at that point, I was still assuming that she'd probably just be there or whatever. I didn't know. Went in the house. She wasn't there.
Hang on just a second, I'll get to that, okay? So, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're
but,
fine.
So the two friends, where was it they flagged you down?
That would be North Orchard Street, which is just around the corner from my house.
Okay.
So
they were on the sidewalk or street?
no, they were driving. They were in a car.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then you stopped and talked to them,
Yep.
and after that you went where?
Went back to the house went to the house.
So whenever you arrived back at 622 West Des Moines, do you remember what time you got there?
Not the exact time. No, probably if I left Newton and help out with her car, like 6 o'clock.
But it was still light outside?
Still light outside in the middle of summer. So
Whenever you arrived back at 622 West Des Moines, was anyone else present?
no.
And did you go into the house?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Jack, whenever you went into the house, did you notice anything unusual about any entryway? Was there any sign of that was unusual?
No.
Any broken locks, broken windows, anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. And how was it that you got into your house that day, if you can recall?
Well, I just walked in the door. We don't lock the doors in our small town, so.
Okay. So the door wasn't even locked?
No.
Okay. So whenever you walk in, anything out of the ordinary in the house that you saw?
No, everything pretty much just as we left it.
Where were the dogs?
The dogs were in the basement.
And was that one of the first things that you did whenever you got into the house, was to get the dogs?
Yep. Pretty much anytime anybody comes home, you go down there and get them, let them upstairs.
Did you happen to go up to the room that Mollie shared with Dalton whenever she was with him?
Yeah, I went up there to check and see if she was in there, and she wasn't in there.
Okay. And again, anything out of the ordinary in the house?
No.
After checking the house, did you check with any of your neighbors to see if they had seen or heard anything?
Yes, I went over to the neighbors to the west and just checked and see if they had heard or seen anything.
Who did you talk to? Do you recall?
Jeff and Michelle Hall.
Okay. And had they seen or heard anything?
No.
Did you talk to other neighbors or other people in the area?
Yeah, I went a couple blocks away to another neighbor and asked him, just because I knew he was the IT guy for the REC, which is the business directly to the east of my house. And
Hang on just one second. Whenever you say IT guy, what do you mean?
well, he handled their computers.
Okay,
stuff
and the
there.
REC is what?
It's just the electric cooperative.
The Rural Electric Cooperative, that's
Yep.
what REC stands for, is
Yep.
that right?
Yep.
Okay. So who was it? What was his name?
Nate Hopwood.
Okay. And did you learn any information from Nate Hopwood?
Well, we asked about the cameras, and he said to us that they were not working because of a storm or something.
What cameras?
There's a couple cameras on the outside. One kind of like faces the road and the parking lot on one side, and that's the one we were kind of hoping to get access to. That's the only one I could see from my house, but
That those were not operative?
yeah, according
Right.
to him.
Did Nate Hopwood indicate he had seen Mollie running the evening before?
I can't remember.
Okay. Was there anybody else that you talked to?
Just at that point, Mollie's friends were over there, and we're kind of brainstorming, trying to figure out where she might be. And then at some point, after kind of doing our best to track her down, we decided just to call law enforcement.
So how many of Mollie's friends had come over to your house to assist you in trying to find her?
The two girls were there pretty much right away, but then seemed like there was other kids just kept showing up. It's more. I mean, there was two other boys I know driving around in a truck and talking to people, but I don't remember how many exactly came over. But there was several.
Did you start to become worried?
I was worried, just that I didn't have any inkling of what happened, but I was kind of worried that she wasn't answering her phone and didn't have contact. There was a big storm the day before, like a tornado that went through Marshalltown, so we didn't know if maybe that had something to do with it. That was honestly my first thought, was that maybe she got caught in the storm or something, and that's, we didn't know what was the deal, but that was kind of my first inclination of what maybe would happen.
Okay. While you were home and after you had checked with the neighbors to see if they'd seen anything, did Allie come over?
Yeah, she came home a couple hours later. She came back from Ames.
Okay. Did you ever call Mollie's phone?
Oh, we called it a whole bunch of times, just always trying to get through to her.
I think you mentioned that, but you called her a number of times, is that correct?
Yes.
And her friends did the same thing?
Yes. We tried Facebook, Snapchat, everything.
Okay. And no response?
No response.
All right, before we finish this up, Mr. Jack, were you familiar, because Mollie had stayed with you, with what her running habits were?
Not exact like where she went, but I know she ran all the time. And when I would see her, generally it'd be like coming back home from work, I'd see her running down the street parallel with where we live. And then I'd see her scatterings around town. I mean, she ran pretty much everywhere, so.
Was Mollie a runner in high school?
Yeah, she was in track and cross country, I think.
And generally speaking, what would Mollie wear whenever you would see her go out for runs?
Shorts, jogging shoes, either like a tank top or a sports bra, and she always had her like the iPod thing that holds her phone for music and stuff.
And prior to going to your job in Newton this week that included July 18th of 2018, did you notice anything unusual in the relationship between Dalton Jack and Mollie Tibbetts?
No.
Did they seem to be getting along?
Yes. I don't think she would be staying at our house if they weren't getting along.
Okay. All right. Mr. Jack, one thing I do want to point out here on our exhibits, hang on just a second. I'd shown you Exhibit 4. Can we get that up, please?
I can see it on here.
I know that they can't see it on the screen. So we've been talking a bit about 622 West Des Moines Street. I may have gotten a bit ahead of myself, but this area here that we see on the left side of the photo is your house that you indicated, correct?
Yep.
And again, I know we've seen this before too, but this is exhibit number 7, which is on the screen, which has been admitted. This was the house that you returned to July 18th of 2018, correct?
Yes.
All right. All right. At this time, that's all the questions I have for Mr. Jack. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Defense may cross-examine.
Sir, I've got a few questions for you. It sounds like when you heard about Mollie Tibbetts being missing that it concerned you. Is that right?
Yes.
You remember that phone call?
From Dalton, yes.
You remember where you were?
Yes, I was in Newton.
Did you get a pit in your stomach right away when you heard that?
I mean, I was just a little bit nervous for him, but wasn't thinking it was anything to be terribly concerned about until I got home.
You'd agree with me that Mollie isn't the type of person that would just, go off the radar for a day or two.
Oh, absolutely not. She was always attached to her phone.
She took pride in showing up to work every day, is that right?
Yes.
She was a very conscientious employee at the daycare that she worked at, is that right?
Yes.
She enjoyed her job and enjoyed being a presence in her children's life, or not her children, but the children's life, is that right?
Yep.
And so it was unusual that she would just not show up to work, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, it sounds like just about as soon as you found out about this, you tried to get yourself back to Brooklyn, is that correct?
Yes.
The first thing that was done is you and other friends tried to, is that me? I wasn't sure if it was me or you that. The first thing that was done is a group of friends kind of gathered together to see if they could locate Mollie. Is that right?
When I got back, yeah. Yep.
You talked about Facebook and Snapchat and different location ways to track her. Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't do Snapchat, but if you could enlighten me a little bit, there's something that's called location services. Is that right?
As far as like the map thing, yeah.
And essentially, if you are a friend or an acquaintance on Snapchat, you can see that person's location. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you use Snapchat at that point in time?
I have Snapchat, but I don't think I had her as a friend, but her friends that were with us did.
And so one of the first things that was done is to kind of look and see if they could see Mollie's location. Is that correct?
Yep.
Because it would be pretty usual that their friends would be able to see exactly where she was. Is that right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it just depends on whether you have the ghost mode on or whatever, but yeah.
Now, as soon as you were not able to find Mollie, the police were called. Is that correct?
Correct.
You were asked to give a couple of different interviews. Is that right?
Yes.
I think on July 20th, so the day after she went missing, you were asked to interview. Is that correct?
Correct.
Where was that interview at?
One was down at the municipal building in Brooklyn, and the other was at the fire department in Brooklyn.
And those are pretty soon after Mollie had went missing. Is that correct?
Yeah, one was like the day or day after, and then the next one was later on in the week after we'd been searching for a while.
Be fair to say that you were cooperative with any investigation techniques that law enforcement wanted to utilize with you. Is that right?
Yes.
So if they wanted you to come in for another interview, you were happy to do that. Is that right?
Yes.
They also asked you to do a polygraph. Is that right?
I'm on Jack's.
Sustained.
Sir, were you ever asked to give a swab of your DNA?
No, I don't think. Not that I can think of.
Another thing that law enforcement did is they asked for different devices that you had. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were cooperative with providing those devices to law enforcement. Is that right?
Yes.
In fact, I think you said, here's my cell phone, take it and you can run anything on it that you need. Is that right?
Yes.
So any messages or anything that were on that phone were voluntarily provided to law enforcement. Is that correct?
Yes.
You and Dalton are both avid hunters. Is that right?
Yes.
What do you hunt?
Deer, pheasants, turkeys, primarily.
Does Dalton also hunt deer,
Yes.
pheasants,
Yes.
turkeys?
Yep.
You two hunt together?
Yes.
I would assume that it's not unusual for your home to have guns that you use to hunt with. Is that correct?
Correct.
What kind of guns would those be?
Rifles and shotguns.
You also had a .357 at your home. Is that right?
Yep.
And another thing, you don't use the knives in, I guess, in hunting, but if you if you shoot a deer, you would use the knife to gut the deer. Is that right?
Yep. Field dress it. Yep.
And would it be fair to say that you've got several different knives in your residence?
Yes.
Same with Dalton?
Dalton had a couple. Yeah.
You two would generally hunt together fairly regularly. Is that right?
During season, I mean, we bow hunted together. That was kind of our favorite thing to do. And then we'd shotgun hunt with our family. We have a group that goes every first season shotgun.
Mollie and Dalton did have their problems, isn't that right?
Not that I'm aware of.
There was issues with him cheating on her with another woman.
Not that I'm aware of.
So you're not aware of any problems involving that?
No. But I'm
And-
sure he wouldn't be the first 18-year-old to cheat on his girlfriend.
Dalton was also known for having some anger problems.
Can you elaborate on that?
He was known to get into fights at school.
No.
You don't know anything about Dalton having any anger problems?
No.
No further questions.
Mr. Brown, anything else to this witness?
Hang on just one second. That's all the questions we have. Thank you.
Mr. Jack, thank you for being here. You're excused. State may call its next witness.
State's next witness is Dalton Jack.
First, you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Jack, you can make your way right over there. Be seated if you would, please.
You don't have to lean into the microphone. Okay. Kind of picks up stuff. You're good right there. All right.
You may proceed when you're ready, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Jack, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name for the record?
I am Dalton Jack.
And currently, Mr. Jack, how are you employed?
I am employed by the United States military and the Army,
Okay, what is your current duty station with the Army?
Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Okay, and in what branch of the Army, or what's your assignment within the Army?
I am in the 82nd Airborne Division as a sergeant, team leader.
Say that again?
Team leader, I guess,
Okay.
would be my official MTOD position.
When did you join the Army?
November of 2018. November 6th is my official date.
And whenever you joined the Army, obviously you went to basic training, right?
Yes,
When was it that you were assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division in Fort Bragg?
April of 2019.
And what's your job within the military? What do you do day to day?
I am a team leader, so I have 4 soldiers underneath me that I take care of and lead pretty much.
And your current rank, say that again?
E5 sergeant.
How old are you?
I am 23 years old.
Tell the jury, they're all behind me here. So tell the jury where it is, Mr. Jack, that you grew up.
I grew up in Brooklyn, Iowa.
Did you live anywhere else other than Brooklyn, Iowa, growing up?
There was like a year and a half or so that we lived in Linville, Iowa, but we continued to go to Brooklyn schools.
Okay. And where did you go to high school?
BGM, Brooklyn High School,
And what year did you graduate?
2016.
Your brother is Blake?
Yes,
You have another brother, correct?
yes.
What's his name?
Randy,
All right. And what's your parents' names?
Brian, and Cindy.
Growing up, Mr. Jack, did you participate in sports in high school?
Yes,
When was it, whenever you were in high school, did you know Mollie Tibbetts?
yes, I did.
All right, did you date at all while you were in high school?
No, we didn't. Well, yeah, we started dating my senior year after a football game.
Okay. And where was Mollie Tibbetts in relation to your high school class? What class was she in?
She was 1 grade below mine.
How long had you known Mollie Tibbetts while you were in high school? Did you know her all her life?
I mean, everybody knows each other in Brooklyn High School. We graduated with a class of like 50 people, so.
Okay. So everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
After graduation, Mr. Jack, what did you do with regard to school?
I went to Hawkeye Community College for a year and then decided that wasn't for me pretty much.
Okay, where is Hawkeye Community College located?
It is in Waterloo, Iowa.
And what did you study there generally?
Sustainable construction and design.
So you have the same interest in construction as your brother Blake?
Yes.
What are your plans, by the way, once you get out? Are you going to get out of the Army at some point in time? Do you have plans to come back to Iowa?
I don't know if I'm going to get out of the Army anytime soon, so I haven't really thought about it.
Okay. So the Army right now is your career.
Yes.
After your year at Hawkeye Community College, what did you decide to do with regard to schooling?
I elected to not go back to school and instead go to work.
And whenever you came back from college, where did you move to?
I moved back to Brooklyn, Iowa, and then started working at Jasper Construction.
All right. So where did you live then when you moved back to Brooklyn?
Initially, when I moved back, I lived with my parents.
And then where did you move to?
I moved to 622 West Des Moines with Blake.
Moved in with your brother?
Yes.
All right. You had mentioned earlier that you had first started dating Mollie Tibbetts in high school. Is that right?
Yes.
How long did you guys date continuously?
About 3 years.
Was there ever any breakups in that 3 years?
No.
All right. I'm going to show you a photo I've shown you before. Get to it. All right. What's on the screen, Mr. Jack, is State's Exhibit number 1. Who is that person?
That is Mollie.
Okay. And this picture, do you actually recognize this photo?
Yes, I'm actually standing behind the camera when she took this.
Okay. So is this one of her senior pictures?
Yes.
Is this the way Mollie appeared? This may be a little bit younger, but just before her death?
Yes.
Okay. So after you graduated high school and went to Hawkeye, you and Mollie continue to date?
Yes.
Did you have a relationship with Mollie's parents?
I knew them, yeah.
Okay. And would you see them often whenever they were around Mollie?
Before this whole situation happened, I'd never met Rob before in my life, but I'd met Laura, yes.
Okay, Rob didn't live in Iowa, is that right?
No, he lived in California.
Okay. And Laura, who is Mollie's mother, still lived in Brooklyn?
Yes.
So you would obviously see her more frequently?
Yes.
Mr. Jack, whenever you and Mollie were seeing each other, tell us how you would typically communicate.
We would communicate through Snapchat and text messages.
I should have been more specific. Communicate when you're not physically around each other. And how was that?
Snapchat and text messages.
And did you use both of those platforms fairly often?
Yes.
Did you know Mollie's phone number back in July of 2018?
Yes.
Can you tell us what it is?
641-510-1065.
Do you still remember that?
Yes.
All right. Were there any other ways that you would communicate with her, like on Twitter, Facebook, or any of those other platforms?
I don't have any of those other platforms personally.
All right. How would you describe Mollie's personality?
She was always happy, bubbly, goofy. She just liked to have fun, pretty much, I guess.
Okay. And having spent that time around Mollie, the 3 years that you described to us, did you learn what her running habits were?
Yes.
And tell us about those.
She would run pretty much anywhere from 1 to 6 miles almost every day, barring some extreme weather, she would go on a run every day.
Okay. And typically, would she run at any particular time of day?
She'd run later in the evening when it started to get cooler.
Okay. And was that particularly so whenever summer was in full swing?
Yes.
And were you familiar, or I should say, were you familiar with the type of clothing or equipment that she would run with?
Yes, she would.
Let me hang on just a second. No. So, as it relates to her clothing, what type of clothes would she run in?
She would run in shorts and a sports bra, sometimes like a one of those cut off muscle shirts, I guess, that she stole from my closet, and then an armband to keep her phone in, and then she had some wireless earphones for music.
Okay, those wireless earphones, were those a gift from you?
Yes.
All right. What would she do with her hair typically?
Wear it up.
Wear it up how?
Like a ponytail, I suppose.
Okay. Would she ever wear any type of headband or headgear?
Yeah, sometimes. I know she had some, but...
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Did she also have any other type of timing devices that she would wear with her?
She wore a Fitbit as well.
All right. Mr. Jack, I want to direct your attention back to the week that includes Wednesday, July 18th of 2018. You remember that week, is that right?
Yes.
During that time frame, where were you working?
I was working in Dubuque, Iowa.
Okay, for who?
Jasper Construction.
And tell us what type of construction that Jasper does.
Civil construction, roads and bridges.
Okay, and how long had you been working for them?
About 2 years.
Okay, had you been working full or part-time?
I've been working full-time.
All right. Was this both during and after you left Hawkeye Community College?
I worked for them part-time during, and then after I went back to full-time, but I worked for them the full-time this summer before I went to Hawkeye as well.
All right. And typically with Jasper Construction, the jobs, would they require travel?
Yes.
Would they require overnight stays?
Yes.
Other than, I know you were in where you were the week of July 18th, but what other places would Jasper have sent you other than Dubuque?
I went down to pretty much the Missouri border, and we built a bridge down there. Burlington, been down there a few times, and Des Moines all the time. And then there were some other ones, but they escape my memory right now. I apologize.
So the week of that would have included Wednesday, July 18th. Where was the job?
It was in Dubuque.
Okay. So would you have gone with a crew of people?
Yes.
All right. So tell us that week when you left Brooklyn to go to your job in Dubuque.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
That's all right. I'll ask him hopefully a little bit better. The week that included July 18th, Wednesday, July 18th, did you leave to go to a job near Dubuque?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What day of the week did you leave?
Monday.
Okay. So Monday would be July 16th of 2018?
Checks out, yes.
All right. And how was it that you got to Dubuque?
I drove my own personal vehicle up there.
Did anyone else from Jasper Construction or any other person for that matter go with you?
Yes, a Luis, and I can't remember his last name, I'm sorry. He rode with me up there.
He was one of your coworkers?
Yes.
And what time would you have arrived Monday in Dubuque, if you recall?
Well, we would have left at like 3 in the morning, so like 5:30, 6.
Okay.
Something
And
like that.
was it Monday or Tuesday that you went up to Dubuque? Do you remember?
We went up on Monday.
Okay. So did you work then all day Monday?
Yes.
And where was it that you stayed in Dubuque, if you recall?
I don't recall the name of it, but it was a motel in Dubuque.
Okay. And would the rest of the road crew have stayed there with you?
Yes.
Who was your job supervisor? Do you recall?
Nick Wilson.
So while you were in Dubuque, did you have communication with Mollie Tibbetts?
Yes.
How frequently?
As frequently as I looked at my phone, I suppose.
Even while you're working on the job, did you have your cell phone with you?
Yes.
Would you communicate with Mollie by text or Snapchat while you were working?
Yes, depending on what I was doing.
All right.
Building.
Where was Mollie working at the time?
She was working for a daycare in Grinnell.
And where specifically in Grinnell, do you remember?
The Grinnell Hospital.
And was that full-time work for her?
Yes.
So while you were in Dubuque, where was your brother Blake?
Blake would have been at his own job site in Newton? I think it was Newton.
Okay, he wasn't in Brooklyn.
No.
And where was Mollie staying, if you know?
Mollie would have been staying at my brother's house.
Okay, was part of her, I wouldn't say really a job, but we'll call it that, to help take care of the dogs?
Yes.
And was she house sitting, for lack of a better term?
For lack of a better term, yes.
So I want to now direct your attention to Wednesday, July 18th. What was your work day like on that, if you remember?
On Wednesday, same old show up, and then we were doing a not a bridge replacement, a joint replacement on the bridge that goes over the Mississippi River. So it was, actually we were forming at the time, everything was already broken out. We were setting up forms to re-pour those joints.
Okay, so so you're talking about pouring concrete?
Yes.
Okay. And so do you remember about what time you would have gotten to work on Wednesday, July 18th?
5:30 or 6, just like every other day.
Okay, so early in the morning?
Yes.
Was there some weather issues on July 18th, or do you recall?
No, not on the 18th.
Okay. Were there weather issues at other times during the week while you were on that job?
On the 19th, we got rained out.
Okay. So on the 18th, do you remember what time you got back from work?
About 6 at night,
Okay.
6 p.m.
What did you do whenever you got back to the hotel in Dubuque on July 18th around 6 p.m.?
Just drank beers with the guys and hung out.
Okay. Did you come back to Brooklyn for any reason?
No.
Would you even had a chance to really do that?
No.
Okay. And did you have any communication directly with Mollie on the evening of July 18th of 2018?
I had Snapchatted her, but she had not replied.
Okay. So do you remember when you sent her a Snapchat?
I don't remember the exact time of when I sent her a Snapchat.
Okay. What time would you have gone to bed on July 18th of 2018?
Relatively early, granted how early we woke up in the morning.
All right. And did you receive a Snapchat from Mollie that evening?
The last Snapchat that I received from her?
Yeah. What?
Yes.
Yeah. When did you actually open that Snapchat?
The next day.
Okay. And so that you can, a Snapchat, describe to the jury how that works. Whenever you receive a Snapchat from someone, how is it that you receive that message and how do you open it? Can you describe it?
Snapchat, you get to open it and then it's set on a timer. As soon as like 10 seconds or whatever the person that sent it elapses, it just disappears and you can't reopen it.
Okay. And whatever Snapchat you received from Mollie, whatever time it was, had it been sent earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Did you just ignore the message, or did you not get it, or can you explain that for us?
I probably just didn't even look at my phone.
Okay. What were you doing on the evening of July 18th after you got back to the hotel?
Like I said, it was drinking beers with the friends of the crew, and we were all hanging out.
Okay, so whenever you're hanging out, are you doing other things?
Yeah, we were playing like yard games.
Okay. And whenever you're talking about, how many people on the crew were there that would have been around you the evening of July 18th?
There was actually 2 crews working in conjunction on that job, so it would have been like 15, 20 people or something like that.
And were all 15 or 20 of the crew out at the motel having fun and doing these types of things that you described?
Not every single one of them, but there was a good probably 10 or 12 of us out there.
Okay. Was there any bad weather on the evening of July 18th that would have rained out that party at all?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay. And do you remember what time you went to bed on July 18th of 2018?
I do not remember what time I went to bed.
Okay. Did you ever leave Dubuque?
No.
All right. Would you have had a roommate while you were at the hotel in Dubuque?
Yes.
All right. Do you know who that is?
Brandon Gordy.
Hang on just one second, Judge. Hang on just one second. Other than what you've described, Mr. Jack, did you have any other communication with Mollie directly?
No.
The next day, So Thursday, let's move to that, July 19th. Did you send Molly a message in the morning?
Yes, I sent her the same good morning message that I always send her.
And what is that good morning message?
Good morning, beautiful, and then like a kissy face or something like that.
Okay. And how is it that, or what platform would you have used to send that information?
I would have texted that.
Okay.
Usually
Did
text
you
me.
receive any response from her?
No,
Was that unusual?
I didn't even notice.
Okay. So you sent her the message, and then where'd you go?
To work.
Okay. Now, before we move on, I wanted to step back to the night before, okay? Let's talk about that. On Wednesday night, did you open a Snapchat from Mollie Tibbetts? Do you recall doing that?
Don't remember, no.
Do you remember telling the police that you opened it at a certain time?
No.
Okay. So would reviewing, I had you review your reports prior to testifying, is that right?
Yes.
Would reviewing those reports help refresh your memory?
Yes.
All right, may I approach to do that, please?
You may.
Thank you. This is page 6, fourth paragraph. Mr. Jack, here's the way this works, okay? I want you to read this to yourself. I've highlighted it for you. Read it to yourself, and then I'll ask you the question, okay?
Okay.
Does that help refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll ask again, Mr. Jack, had you opened a Snapchat from Mollie on July 18th, Wednesday of 2018?
Yes.
And what time did you open it?
10:30 p.m.
Okay, was that the last communication that you would have observed from Mollie Tibbetts?
Yes.
All right. Now, 10:30 p.m. does not mean that's when you received the Snapchat, correct?
Correct.
All right, that's just when you opened it.
Yes.
Do you recall when you received that Snapchat from her?
I do not.
Do you remember the content of it?
Yeah, it was just a face with her caption, and I don't remember what the caption said.
Okay, and could you tell from the photo what location Mollie was in that photo on the Snapchat?
It appeared she was in the living room of the Blake's house.
Okay, so not outside,
No.
inside.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, let's go back then now to July 19th of 2018, which was Thursday. Did you receive any communication from Mollie Tibbetts on that Thursday?
No.
What was describe for the jury, please, what your work day was on Thursday?
Our work day was we showed up, and then we were forming the joints, still continuing to do that. And then we ended up getting rained out because we had some pretty inclement weather there.
Okay. So when did you get rained out on Thursday? Do you recall the time?
I'm not for sure on this, but I think it was around noonish.
All right, and was the plan to stay and work Thursday if you could, or Friday if you could?
I think we waited it out for like 15 minutes, and then we just went back to the motel.
Okay, and that's what usually happens with crews in your type of work. Weather interrupts it, correct?
Yes.
All right, was the plan to come back to the job site and keep working on Friday, the next
Yes.
day? Okay, so no plans to come home on Thursday, correct?
No.
All right. Did you receive at some point in time a call from one of Mollie's friends?
Yes.
And did you learn some information from that caused you to become worried?
Yes.
What was it?
I've received a call from Emily Fenner, one of her coworkers at the daycare, and she said that Mollie had not called or showed up for work.
Okay. And do you remember about what time you received that communication?
4:30, maybe?
So it was in the afternoon?
Yes.
Prior to receiving that contact from Emily, or from, did you tell us who it was?
Yes, Emily Fenner.
Okay, sorry. So prior to receiving that contact from Ms. Fenner, had you made other attempts to try to reach Mollie Tibbetts on Thursday, July 19th?
No, I was asleep. I was taking a nap.
Okay, because you'd been up early.
Yes.
Okay. Once you got that call from, or that communication from Ms. Finner, did you become worried?
Yes.
And what did you do as a result of that?
I contacted pretty much everybody that I could think of to try to get a hold of Mollie as well as I called her own cell phone multiple times.
And had anybody had any success?
Nobody had any success.
Do you remember how many, I won't ask you who, but do you remember how many phone calls or texts that you made in an attempt to try to find where Mollie was at?
I do not remember the number, but it was a lot.
Okay.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
let me jump in and stop you there. We're due for a recess.
Okay.
Members of the jury, we'll take a 15-minute recess at this time. Want to remind you of your admonition, and again, you can leave your notebooks where they are. And Mr. Jack, you can go ahead and step down.
I want them to wait for a second.
Okay. Actually, do the jurors to wait?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, jurors, would you remain seated where you are, and we'll exit, and we'll get you your break here in just a second. What are you going to take? Fine. You want them just to wait for that purpose?
They're waiting for those guys to.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. Everyone else.